Okay, so here I am in my house, and I've got something really special and pretty exciting to show you in just a minute. You've probably never seen anything like this. I'm really excited to show it to you. But first, this is my house. So this is where I live. As you may or may not know, I work downtown in a condo down there, and that's where I am in the hustle and bustle most days. And then afterwards, I come home and relax and recharge here in my house. It's a nice suburban type area. There's not a lot going on. It's peaceful. It's relaxful. This is how I recharge. And what I want to share with you today and talk to you about is a really good analogy for how businesses usually start and then grow. And I'm going to share a real example with you from my life, dating way back to when I was a teenager in my very first business, and show you how it started, how it grew, how it evolved, and how you can use some of these same principles in your life and your business, because there's some really important lessons here that I'm going to walk you through. So let me give you a little bit of context to this. For as long as I can remember, I've always been into fish, like tropical freshwater fish. I remember being a young child back at my grandfather's cottage and sitting on his wharf with my fishing rod, casting the line and catching these little perch fish and putting them in the bucket and being so proud to catch them. And ever since then, I was always hooked on fish. I just love them. I grew up with them. And so when I got my very first job was a paper route. And I don't know, I was probably 10 or 11 years old, and I did it all myself, and I made my money. I did the collections. And the very first thing I bought was my own aquarium. It was a little 10-gallon tank that I bought with my own money. I put it in my bedroom at the time and put in a few fish and cleaned it myself. I scrubbed the algae. I cleaned the gravel. I dealt with the fish when they got sick, and I loved it. I started getting to know everything about fish, and I was so proud. And as I picked up a few odd jobs and started taking on other things in my young career at the time, I ended up buying a bigger fish tank eventually. So I ended up then upgrading to a 25-gallon fish tank, which was double the size. And then eventually to a 33-gallon, and then to eventually a 45-gallon tank. And each tank had its own challenges and problems that I had to deal with, and it was bigger, so I was able to do more with it. I was able to put in more rocks. I was able to put in more plants and decorate it differently. And I share this because typically this is what happens with businesses, is they usually start small, like my 10-gallon tank, and then as we grow, so do the opportunities. Just like with my fish tank, there was the opportunity to plant more plants and decorations and get larger fish, and also sometimes the challenges. I had to deal with new things that I hadn't experienced before. This is how businesses grow. Now, something interesting about this is because I was a super geek and nerd back then and I just loved fish, I used to actually hang out at the aquarium store back when I was younger. That's what I would do for fun. On the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, my parents would literally drop me off at the aquarium. I'd spend like half the day there, interacting with the staff, asking them questions, getting to know them a bit better, asking about different fish and different things they had going on. And this is where I learned a lot about what I knew about aquariums. Also, I helped out around there when I could. If they needed some help, if they needed me to help move around some buckets or clean a couple tanks, I also did that. Most importantly though, I built a relationship. Now, why this is important is because the manager of that pet store, it was called Aqua Creations back then, it's no longer around, but the manager, Tony, had built up a clientele of clients that he did on the side where he cleaned fish tanks, lawyers' offices, dentist's offices, a couple insurance companies, and he would go in there outside of his normal job and clean fish tanks. And he built up this pretty cool business, and eventually him and his wife decided to move. They decided to move into a different part of the country, and because I knew him and he knew how passionate I was about fish, he asked me if I wanted to buy his business. Now, I wasn't thinking about doing something like this, but I was kind of in the right place at the right time. And I looked at the numbers, I did it over a little bit, and I said, you know what, sure thing, I'll buy it. And I ended up buying his aquarium cleaning business. And it turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever did, because I got to learn in a sort of no-risk way about business and working with clients. And it's also how I paid my way through college. Now, here's why I'm sharing this with you, is because I used to clean all my fish tanks myself, and my clients' tanks, I cleaned all of them myself. I knew all the ins and outs about aquariums, about fish, dealing with problems, how to set everything up. And I still love fish today. It's something I'm just really into. I love having an aquarium around me. So check this out. I want to show you something. Look at this. This is my aquarium, and look how big it is. It is 6 feet long. It is massive, and it's literally, I went to the aquarium store, and it's quite frankly the biggest tank you can get for like a residential type property. It's like 6 feet long. It's 175 gallons. And here's the interesting thing is that I don't clean it. I don't clean it anymore. Even though I could, I don't clean it. And the reason why is because I'm focused on my other businesses. So I'm able to hire somebody, and he comes in once a week to clean my aquarium. But here's why I want to share this with you, for 2 reasons. One is because I know how to oversee him, because I know all the ins and outs about aquariums, because I've cleaned an aquarium this size myself before. So I'm able to manage, I'm able to oversee what it is he does and know if he's doing a good job, know if he's doing a bad job. That's the first thing. And this is true in most businesses as well. If somebody bootstraps their businesses and starts it from the ground up and knows all the ins and outs, they're probably going to be a very successful entrepreneur. It's when we try and start a business and we just outsource everything and work with people doing jobs that we aren't familiar ourselves that we usually run into trouble. So that's why I recommend most businesses that are really successful, they start organically, and they should start with you as the entrepreneur, getting to know all the different aspects of it and doing it yourself. That's the first thing I want to share with you. The second thing is that if you look at the trajectory of my sort of career with aquariums, it started off as that little 10-gallon tank. And as I got more familiar with things, as I grew my skills, as I got to handle the challenges, it went up from there to a 25, to a 33, to a 45-gallon tank, and it kept growing, kind of like that exponential hockey stick curve, to the point where 10 years later, here I have now, maybe a little bit more than 10 years, but a massive aquarium. Very seldom do we start a business and it just blows up right away and we get the huge aquarium right from the start. And I share this because if you stick with something, if you grow your skills, if you get better over time, year by year, that's how you eventually get an aquarium and a business like this. I want you to see that analogy. It doesn't start huge from the very beginning. It slowly builds up. Those are the 2 takeaways that you can learn from my little fish tank aquarium business and story here. The reason I've got this aquarium here is not only I love fish, but it's also a reminder to me personally about where I've come. My very first business was an aquarium cleaning fish tank. And to now be here in my house and see that, it reminds me back to the hard work I did there, learning all about it, putting myself in a position where I bought that aquarium business way back when and then worked with clients, to now being able to have this in my house and be able to hire somebody else to clean it for me. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll show it to you once again. Again, this is massive. It's 6 feet long, 6 feet, 175 gallons. It's crazy, but it's one of my prized possessions and something I'm really into. So I'll leave you with that. Have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you next time.